good morning to a brand new day and a brand new episode on BKBB. And I'm Alan Bhaskar. BKBB is an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Batein. It's a channel that brings to you every week policy analysis, an occasional business story, and an occasional conversation. But right now at 8:15 every morning on weekdays, Monday to Friday, we bring you news behind the news. We take up a few titles that we think are interesting and we analyze them. And today I have my co-anchors, Katya. Welcome, Katya. And Anurag. Welcome, Anurag. Glad to have both of you here. And the titles that we shall be discussing are given on the screen. The first title is, of course, Trump. How Trump's statements are getting more and more bizarre. It's in keeping with tradition. And the second one is a very interesting one on how investor interest is not always protected at AGMs, and investor groups and institutions have a bigger role to play. And the third one is on small nuclear reactors and the invitation of private sector units and how the deadline has been extended. Okay, let's take the first one first. Ever since Trump demanded a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, he has been making the claim that he had completely obliterated the nuclear facilities of Iran. The defense itself, the Pentagon itself has come out with a report saying that no, they have not been totally obliterated. And Trump says, I don't believe in the defense department. He did not believe in the Home Secretary. His Intelligence Secretary, Tulsi Gabbard, when she said Iran had no weapons. Now he says that Pentagon's assessment that they were not obliterated is wrong. So who does he believe except himself? The fact is that when the bombing took place, two of the sites, Natanz, one of them, and they were the sites that were actually Isfahan and Natanz were both non-existent nuclear facilities because they had been scrapped a long time ago. The third one, which is the deep one, 400 meters deep, was one from where they have already removed all the facilities, including the 400 kilos of enriched uranium. IAEA, when it conducted inspection, they said there was no sign of radiation. How can you bomb and remove nuclear facilities without being some radiation around? And there's no trace of where the 400 kilos went. And yet Trump says, no, we completely obliterated, fine. And there's another equally amusing statement yesterday. Trump said he's allowing Iran to sell oil to China. Since when did he allow it? It was being done irrespective of Trump's instructions for the last several years. Remember when the US sanctioned Iran and Iran could not export its oil, and the US also put a freeze on transactions through the SWIFT. Iran kept on selling oil to China, and China is one of the biggest beneficiaries of Iranian oil. Suddenly the contract says, I allow Iran to sell oil to China. Is he taking credit for something that's already been done? Or is he using this as a justification for saying, look, I've removed one part of the sanctions, the others will follow? Whatever it is, it's bizarre, it's strange, and Trump's statements are getting more and more ridiculous, even a joke. That does not augur well for the entire world, because the US is the richest, is the most powerful, and today it's the most inconsistent. You could even call it a liar. Anyway, that's the first story. The second one is equally interesting. It's about protecting investors' rights. And Katya will talk about it. Now, Katya, please.
So when it comes to power, challenging power, very little can be done, sir. and that is clearly evidenced in how many resolutions that companies pass at AGMs or postal ballots or whatever the way method that is, they get rejected. So this is a study done by the shareholder advocacy group IIAS. Is a very minute amount. You can see only 24 out of 4,800 odd resolutions of only of Nifty 500 companies have been rejected. And the, you know, the worst part, it's not that there is no dissent. There is a large amount of dissent. There have been many cases, you know, including Adani's, including Finalex and many companies, where institutional dissent is more than 40%. In spite of that, those resolutions have passed because promoters are backed it. Promoters are the chunkiest shareholders. We can see how much shareholders they do. But you know, institutional shareholding is not also low. It is 26%. And the others who are the shareholders are family offices, HNIs, retails, also 22%. So both of them together are half. Promoters are half, but promoters are still having an outsized interest and outsized power over their companies, and that is extremely obvious in this case. So what are institutions angry with? And mostly salaries and remunerations to C-suite, and ESOPs also are a part of salary and remuneration. If you see, very few ordinary employees ever get ESOPs unless it's a startup or something like that. So these are some of the issues that are happening in companies. So if you look at it in the last couple of years, financialization of savings, or you know, a lot of retail coming in, a lot of domestic institutions have had taken up more shareholding in companies. You know, their extent has been in, you know, extent of their investment into the stock market has gone up, but yet promoters are still ruling the roost. So what the suggestion that they have given is, you know, when there is dissent, at least address the dissent. So what do you think about it, sir? You think the dissent should be addressed? If not, you know, not, not passed.
Katya, you're absolutely right. Investors' protection has to be, investors have to be protected. And there are two ways of dealing with it. One
Mm,
is internationally, especially US.
mm,
If I'm the management and I'm interested in a resolution, I'm not allowed
mm,
to vote. I have to move
mm.
out of the room and the other people
Right.
vote.
Mm.
That is a law we've not brought in yet. The
Majority
institutions,
of minority is still there, right, sir? If I'm sorry.
beg your pardon?
Ma- Majority of minority resolutions are all there, but they are not very active, right?
No, promoters are not allowed to vote. You get the promoters out of
Mm.
that resolution. They can't vote.
Right.
Suddenly the voting block goes out, and it's quite possible that more resolutions get blocked.
Mm.
But the CLB doesn't want it. Just imagine the same thing happens in public sector units. And
Right.
the promoter, which is the government, is kept out.
Gov- mm.
So obviously the government doesn't want it, A, for its own self-interest, and B, for the promoters with they have a cozy relationship. Can you imagine nationalized banks if the promoters are kept out? It could have problems for the government. It could have problems for the promoters, also the private promoters who are in league with the government.
But to be fair, government capitalizes a lot of banks.
Yes, but then the government allows leakages
That's right. True. Both ways. It works both ways.
both ways. But very valid point and a very interesting point. But thank you, Katya, for highlighting this. Very useful. And let's take the third story. And the third story is by Anurag. Anurag, please come in.
Good morning. India's Nuclear Power Corporation has extended the deadline for industrial proposals to set up small nuclear reactors, reflecting a surge in interest from both state and private sector players. The Bharat Small Reactors Initiative now invites ongoing submissions, with several companies already collaborating and others requesting more time to finalize their plans. The government's nuclear energy mission, announced in the latest union budget with a significant allocation of 20,000 crores, aims to expand nuclear capacity and promote research and development of small modular reactors, or SMRs. Bihar is among the first states approved for an SMR based nuclear plant under this mission. Now, unlike large nuclear plants, SMRs offer flexibility and scalability and can be deployed on existing sites, including retired coal plants, which are increasing over time. This approach allows for repurposing of legacy infrastructure, reducing both environmental and economic cost of decommissioning old thermal units. As energy intensive industries like data centers expand, the demand for reliable, low carbon electricity is rising. SMRs can provide continuous stable power with a small physical footprint, making them suitable for integration into industrial clusters and digital infrastructural hubs. With solar capacity nearing a major milestone, nuclear remains a smaller but critical component of India's clean energy ambitions, which currently contributes 3% of total electricity in the country. One of the major concerns of these SMRs is that they still produce nuclear waste, which requires careful management and storage. It could change the course of India's electricity needs, but totally depends on how they are adopted, which could eventually boost domestic production as well as foreign investments. What's your take on this, sir?
Anurag, it's like this. The government has great plans, but most of the plans are election driven. Why would they select Bihar? Bihar is one of the most sad industrial records. Look at the number of plants breaking down. Whether it's a conventional power generation plant, or it's a railways, or it's any other industrial activity. And you want to create the first plant in Bihar using nuclear energy, which is very, very sensitive. It can't manage existing plants and you want to give it nuclear waste to handle. I don't know whether the government is being responsible enough, whether the government has the right vision. Please remember, small plants have still a lot of technological issues that need to be resolved. And even while this remains to be resolved globally, we want to push ahead. Go ahead, push ahead. But don't get them to states which have a bad record of plant management, of industry management. Do it in states which have a better record. And that is my only objection to the government. Yes, we should promote small plants because they're safer, they're flexible, and they're scalable. But the place where they have to put up needs to be chosen very carefully, and the safeguards need to be tremendous. Please also remember that Bihar is one of the most poorest states for migrants, for opium, and for uh, accidents. Thanks. Thanks, Anurag. Great story, very valid in terms of policy, but unfortunately, politics prevails over policy. And now we go to the next thing. But before I go ahead, please remember, I request you to click the subscribe button if you've not subscribed already. Please click the like button. It matters to us. And most important, please tell all your friends about us. Now let us take up the questions that are coming in. The first question is on protecting investors' rights. And the question is, how else do we protect investors' rights? Katya, would you like to address that?
So like you said, tougher controls, reduced promoter interest. There is a system called majority of minority voting also, some resolutions where the majority of minority voices are taken in. Please remember, promoters are half, but the others and institutions are also make up the other half, so their interests need to be protected too. So
Yes,
so a lot of it has, like you said, has to come from regulator himself, themselves. So they should make it, they should bring down the hegemony a little bit,
correct.
is
I
my
agree.
point.
Which means changing the company law.
Right.
Yes, you're right. That's the best way to do it. There's another question. Thanks, Katya. And there's another question also. And the question is, after the ceasefire, can we expect Gaza to be the next? But we don't know. We don't know. Gaza is a vexatious issue. That is where the ethnic cleansing and crime and criminal acts of war are clearly visible, the US is silent and is complicit, and Israel is the perpetrator of these crimes. And by being the perpetrator, Israel has mocked at all global norms, all civilization norms. And the country that tried to to project itself as being the victims of a Holocaust are creating another Holocaust, and they are the perpetrators of this new Holocaust. Something must be done to stop it. Western countries are getting up. Spain has already objected, Ireland has objected, Norway has objected. More and more countries may join in. Let's see. There's a third question that's come in, and the third question is about uh, nuclear power. Maintenance is high and unaffordable as long as the government decides the period over which the amount must be amortized. You can fudge the pricing. If I have to meet all the costs within 5 years, my requirement for revenues is this much. But if I have to recover the costs in 40 years, my costs become almost zero. It's one of the fudges that the government makes when trying to cost nuclear power. One really does not know what is the costing behind nuclear power, because the way we keep on changing the number of years over which to amortize the cost of power. Anyway, that brings me to the end of today's session. Thanks for being with us. It's good to have you here. Have a wonderful day, and please tell your friends about us. Take care.